This session is going to last around 30 minutes with some time for a Q&A at the end. And we're really grateful to Jane for her time this afternoon. So without further ado, I will hand you over to her now.
Okay, let me just get rid of the pictures of me. You don't really want to be looking at me. Hi everybody, hope you're all well and happy Friday. Lovely to see you all. Just before I start the presentation, just a couple of words. Georgia, I don't know if you're there. If you are there, I just wanted to say you've been a great president and thank you for all the hard work you've done. You've been amazing and you've had to steer IALC with the help of the committee and the great team through some really difficult times. So sorry to see you go and sorry we couldn't wish you a proper farewell. So if you're not there, you'll get this on the recording. And Robin, really looking forward to working with you and everyone else on the committee. Anna, I know you're there. Alex, it's good to have you back. So a great new committee and all very exciting stuff. So onwards and upwards, IALC, it's good. So on to today's session and just a little bit of background on this. First of all, I am not a neuroscientist and I only have a very shallow layperson's knowledge. So don't ask me difficult questions about hormones and things at the end because I'm not going to be able to answer. Just to tell you how this started. So last autumn, it was the Friday before the ISEF Berlin weekend. And I attended a seminar given by a woman called Dr. Tara Swart. Dr. Swart is a neuroscientist and a medical doctor, but she also grew up in an Indian household, so they looked very much towards the East as well as the West. So what was particularly interesting was that both sides had influenced her thinking. I was so inspired by what she said that I bought her book, and that's in the references at the end. And then I rushed off to Heathrow, jumped on a plane, flew to Berlin and landed in the ISEF madness. And I was probably grumpy, no doubt I complained about it, but that seems like, sorry, that seems like another planet now. And starting to miss it a little bit. But she was talking about how an understanding of neuroscience can help you unlock the power of the brain. But what I really liked was that everything she said was very practical and laced with common sense. And she talked about a lot of small things you could do to make big differences. And at the time I thought, hey, this is good for us because we're always rushing around, jumping on and off planes, and maybe we don't really look after ourselves. And that's why I wanted to share some of what she said with you in Auckland, which is also another planet like Berlin, but maybe in a different universe. So that's no longer a problem, the rushing around bit for the moment, but I think we've got other issues which are much, much, much more difficult to deal with. Oh, to be fed up with traveling. I mean, that's a luxury now. So today, what I want to do is share with you some of what she said and other things that I've learned since, which are small changes that we can make, which will improve our brain health and help us develop new and good habits, which will help us remain calm and make good decisions, which is important for our businesses, take the right risks, which we need to keep doing in order to improve the businesses, and have good relationships with those around us, our family, our friends, and our staff. But one important caveat is that there's an old maxim in English, do as I say, not as I do. And I think that applies very much to me. So I'm getting there, but I wouldn't say I'm doing all these things yet. So I'm going to briefly touch on lots of different things, but just skimming the surface. So I've put some references in at the end. But before we begin, something I've noticed during this time working from home is that I'm super glued to my chair the whole time. I don't move. I don't, which is one of the really bad things. So I don't move at all. So I would like to invite you to just join me in a very, very small, non-threatening bit of movement. And I can't see you, so it doesn't matter what trousers you're wearing or anything. So if you would all not mind just standing up for a minute, I just want to get a little bit of oxygen to the brain. So I'm going to demonstrate. So if you stand up and just start by swinging your arms, something I used to really enjoy doing. Now with the dodgy back, I have to be a bit careful, but swinging the arms side to side. Then stand in the middle, feet hip width apart, lifting your crown, dip your chin a bit so you're not sticking your chin out. We all stick our chins out with our computers. And then look to your right. Lift your right arm up 2/3. Then reach with your right arm as if you're picking an apple or reaching for something. Stretch as far as you can, stretching the side of your body. Then looking at your hand, lower it very slowly down to your right. Bring your gaze back to center and then turn to your left. Raise your left arm up 2/3. Then reach again. Left arm stretch. Lower your left arm, keeping your gaze on your hand. And then back to center. Sit down and we'll begin. Oh. Okay, like I wasn't there and couldn't see your faces. I'm always horrified if someone does something like that to me in the seminar. Yes, I am. So let's move on. So what we will be looking at is based on neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is about the channels in our brain that lead from one bit of brain to the other. It's the muscle building part of the brain. The things that we do often are the things that we become stronger at, and what we don't do fades away. And what's really exciting is that we can influence these channels, we can create new channels, and so we can develop good habits. Over time, these become automatic. Apparently, it takes only 21 days to form one of these habits. Neuroplasticity apparently will also help you recover from traumatic brain injury or stroke. But it basically, for us, as far as we're concerned, you can rewire your brain to get better habits that will then lead to better health and better practice in your working life and your family life. So that's exciting. There's no quick fix. It's not easy, but we can make small, achievable changes. And there are two classic exercises for this. One is if you learn a musical instrument, and the other is if you learn a new language. So that's something that's very good news for our industry. Research has shown that learning a musical instrument and learning a language make the brain more efficient, increase intelligence, and mean that we form new neural connections, and so that enhances neuroplasticity. Just a quick note, are you all on mute? Don't forget to mute yourselves. I'm screen sharing, so I can't mute you. But if you're not on mute, mute button on. Very much. Right, let's move on. So, I think someone is still not on mute. Muted? Good. Right. So we all want a healthy brain, but I don't really think about healthy brain. I think about healthy body. But brain, you know, you just take it for granted. It's there. But a healthy brain helps us to do all sorts of things in a more calm and balanced way. So if you have a healthy brain, you solve problems, you're creative. A healthy brain suppresses our biases. And one of the most dangerous biases we have is a bias against ourselves. So we are constantly criticizing ourselves and preventing ourselves from doing things. But if we have a healthy brain, that doesn't happen so much. A healthy brain will also help us to change tasks easily, to switch between different activities. But one interesting thing that I learned is that multitasking apparently is very bad for your brains. So those of us that pride ourselves on our multitasking, no, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be doing one task at a time, sequentially. And if you look at what a healthy brain helps us to do and what you don't do if you don't have a healthy brain, makes me think that Trump doesn't have a healthy brain. And I think he certainly needs a little bit more neuroplasticity. So what we can do to help get this healthy brain and improve our neuroplasticity, is look at these 5 different things in particular. And we're going to look at each of these in turn in this seminar. So fuel, exercise, stress, mindfulness, well-being, and sleep. And improving these things will help us form these great new habits. And another 3 things to think about with the new habits. Novelty is good. Your brain likes something new and exciting, stimulates you. Aerobic exercise is good, gets the oxygen going, and emotional stimulation is good. So anything that stimulates your senses is good. I think you probably know all of that. Fuel. Down to food. One of my favourite activities is fuel. But I didn't know that the brain used so much of what we eat. So it's very, very important to feed your brain. And apparently a lot of us make the mistake of not feeding our brain because we're so worried about dieting or marathon running and what we should be eating for that. And we're not actually thinking, we're not aware of how to feed your brain. And I think a common mistake made by people such as ourselves, very busy, running businesses, we're rushing around, we don't think about our brain in the morning. I know a lot of people that don't have breakfast and they might not feel like eating it, but it's important. So they'll just grab a coffee and then they'll go into a meeting and they'll make some incredibly important decision when they're tired and they're hungry. And actually, this will possibly be a poor decision just because they haven't fed their brain. So it's like trying to run a car on no petrol. That's an analogy that I like. And some interesting research. There was a survey of 1,000 judges and how they treated prisoners on parole that were up for remission. And they found that parole prisoners who were one of the first 3 after a meal were up to 6 times more likely to be released than the final 3. So that's quite interesting. Feed the judges. Perhaps we should feed our examiners more as well. Feed your British Council inspectors in the UK. So I think you know most of this. I think you know what we should be eating and what we shouldn't be eating. So the things that are good for us that help. A new term for me, the BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, very important. This improves our survival, brain survival, repair of brain cells, our mood, our learning, and our memory. And whole grains, green vegetables, dark fruits, etc. My favourite, dark chocolate. So you can eat chocolate. It's good for you if it's dark. I'm sure dark wine should be in there, but they haven't actually got dark wine down there. And if you want an instant brain boost, try a teaspoon of coconut oil. Then eat less. Yes, we all know this. Robin's just been talking about his children and the cookies they're making. I think I'm not doing very well on avoiding these foods at the moment. Robin, like your kids, I've started baking and I never, ever, ever used to bake. I thought cakes were evil things that you should keep out of the house because they're fattening. And I've been using not only baking, but using things like white sugar for the baking. So I've been making cakes and then eating cake every day. I've also found out that things such as sugar and saturated fat increase your risk of dementia. So got to put a stop to that very soon. So the antidote to all of that eating of cake is fasting. And I just want to tell you about 2 types that I know about, one of which I do and one of which I don't. So intermittent fasting is very popular, as far as I know, and there's a link at the back at the end of the webinar on this if you're interested. So intermittent fasting you do normally on a daily basis, and you have a window where you can eat and then a window where you don't eat anything at all, just liquids. And you vary the windows, so the smaller the eating window, the harder it is. So if you're a new faster, you should have a large eating window. Again, a link at the end of the webinar, more on intermittent fasting. Then there is the 5-2 fasting, which I've done for quite a long time. And you, for 2 or 3 days a week, you limit your calories. It was 500, they've upped it to 800. So you have 2 or 3 days fasting and 4 or 5 days off. I found this one works really well for me. I think you need to find what fits in with your lifestyle. Forget now, while we're on lockdown, no, fasting is completely out the window. But in that other world, just having to limit things for 2 or 3 days was very effective. And I like cooking, so I cooked all my own food. There's very tasty food you can eat. Some of my family's favourites are fasting dishes. The downside for me was that on the days off, you're supposed to eat normally, but sometimes I'm a bit kind of, well, hey, I can eat everything now, and that's not really how it's supposed to work. So I did very well with this. I lost about 2 stone. That's I'm not quite sure what that is in kilo, but it's quite a lot. But I put quite a lot back on more recently because of the traveling and so on makes it difficult. But whatever works for you is the way to do that. And what I found was, I did it for the weight loss, but actually it lowered my cholesterol, which was really interesting. And I had more energy. I felt light. It's hard to explain, but I certainly had a lot more energy. And I've also noticed that if I still eat my fasting foods at lunch every day, I just have a light soup. And if I don't have that, I go into a real post-lunch slump. So if I have carbs at lunchtime, I'm really effective. And then the other important bit of what we put in and out of our bodies is water. Again, we know we should drink, and there's been so much about this. But something, again, that I found fascinating was that how much dehydration affects your focus and your attention. So there was a 2015 study, and they found that dehydration is akin to driving at the legal alcohol limit, which for the study was 0.08% alcohol in terms of its impact on your concentration. So I think that's quite a powerful impact. And if you're thirsty or you've got dry lips, then you are already quite dehydrated. So keep drinking. I have to tell you that when I was preparing this, it was evening and I was glued to my chair and I was working so hard on it, I ran out of water, and for about 2 hours I didn't fill up the water glass. So, as I said, do what I say, not what I do. I'm not always so good at these. Exercise. So that's a picture of me and my yoga friends in Bali. Ah, joy. I to be back there. When I was doing the exercise slides and I was thinking about IALC, and I was thinking, IALC people, you all exercise. I've seen you in the gym, in the mornings, in the hotels and in the swimming pool. I remember Walter leading the running group when we were in Brisbane every lunchtime. I know at the moment Leanne is in a running group with Magda from IALC and various others. So I know I'm talking to the converted here, but just a couple of reminders. It energizes your body, it energizes your brain, it helps us breathe more deeply, and that helps us to oxygenate our cells. So, it improves this neuroplasticity I keep talking about, as it helps the survival and integration of cells in our neuronal circuitry. It raises our BDNF levels. Again, I talked about that just now. This important thing that improves our survival, repair, etc. And if it's something we enjoy, this is quite interesting, if you're having fun as well as doing the exercise, it raises the BDNF levels even more. So keep up the exercise. A little bit more on exercise, but again, like the fasting, choose something that you like, choose something that fits in with you. They say 30 minutes 3 times a week is fine. Pollution isn't great, that's a logical one, but it's a bit tricky in London. And keep it fun, keep it different. So I started off by doing power walking, which isn't too tough. And in order to really motivate myself, I need an external force to make me do something in the beginning. So I paid someone to teach me power walking. And power walking, it's not with the poles, it's the other one. It's where you look like a complete idiot and you're kind of wiggling around the park. But I stuck to the power walking and I still do it. Did it for years. And one of the benefits of outside exercise rather than the gym for me was I became an honorary dog walker. Those of you with dogs will know that dog walkers have more fun. they get to meet lots of people. Now, I didn't have a dog, but I now know all the park dog walkers, and they say hi to me every day and all of these things. So that was an added bonus, that human interaction. And other bits and pieces that I'm doing at the moment that are quite fun. I like a challenge. So I've started the Couch to 5K. I used to run years ago, but I haven't run for ages. And I turned into a slug, and that's an absolute killer. So I'm doing the Couch to 5K, 4 yoga sessions a week, and flamenco on Wednesdays. So quite fun, all the Zoom exercise. Just because we're stuck at home, it doesn't mean we can't do it. One of the good things that exercise does, the brain stimulation, it increases the capacity in our hippocampus, which helps new cell growth, again helping with memory, learning, and emotional control. And dancing has a double benefit, not only exercise, but again, with the neuroplasticity, with those neural channels, it staves off dementia. So get dancing, everybody. And finally, if you don't even have time to leave your chair, there is something called chair yoga, which if we had more time, I'd do with you now, but we don't have time. There's a link at the end if you're interested in chair yoga or chair yoga for your staff. It's yoga you can do at your desk. So those are all the sort of the fun things, the positive things, but of course, for us, a major factor most of the time is stress. And stress is not great. It affects our decision making. We lose our sense of balance if we are too stressed. We either swing wildly between two poles, or we become completely entrenched with one opinion. If we're too stressed, we avoid healthy risk, and we do need risk in order to progress our businesses. And if we're too stressed, that increases the release of cortisol, which is a bad thing. Cortisol, the stress hormone. And your brain thinks you're under threat. It thinks you're starving, so it lays down extra fat. So a sign of having too much cortisol is a layer of fat around your stomach, but having thin arms and legs. So I'm just fatter everywhere, so I'm all right. It's not the cortisol. Another danger sign is you keep getting colds and flu, and you can't shake these things off. So those are, moving on. So connected to this, factors that cause stress and factors that alleviate stress are the survival emotions and the attachment emotions. And again, just skimming the surface, we can say that survival emotions bad, attachment emotions good. Of course, it's not that simple. There are good and bad sides to both of them. But the survival emotions are fear, anger, disgust, shame, and sadness. And we will do anything to avoid these. If they are unchecked, then you start to catastrophize about everything. You become disempowered, or you go into fight or flight response, and that leads to bad decisions. They also increase your cortisol, which erodes the immune system. And cortisol also stops your brain being so creative, productive, and collaborative. And something I found fascinating was that physically, our levels of cortisol will actually physically affect others if we are in a room with them. So to put it bluntly, we sweat out the cortisol and they absorb it. Now, that's not a problem while we're at home on our Zoom, but that's really interesting, and I wasn't aware of that. So that's one of the reasons why we pick up so easily on other people's stress or other people's bad moods. That's why there can be this depression cloud if someone in your family is having a mood. You're actually absorbing it. You're absorbing the hormone from them. The positives, though, the joy, excitement, love, and trust, these are great, and these are mediated by the effects of a positive hormone, oxytocin. And these give us good feelings. These help us, encourage us to take good risks, the healthy risks that we need. And so that they're very good for us in our business. And oxytocin depends on physical contact. One of the things that causes it, there's other things such as giving birth, but we're not going to be doing a lot of that at the moment, or I won't. So physical contact with others, or eye contact, genuine eye contact, not virtual eye contact, releases oxytocin, as does laughing with other people and shared laughter. So a couple of things to think about with this and with the oxytocin is that we shouldn't be looking at our screens in meetings. And I'm very guilty of this. Sit there with the laptop in front of me, I'm typing, I'm looking at the laptop, I'm not looking at the other people. I'm not quite sure the way around that, but it really is bad. And also if you look at your phone, if you're having lunch or something with your family, again, that's cutting that, that's stopping the oxytocin. So we really need to try and cut that down. Communicate properly. Once we can see each other again, once we're allowed to touch each other. So still on the slightly depressing stuff, a bit more on the signs of stress and the high cortisol. Again, I think you know all of these, you know the signs of your stress: sleep issues, indigestion, headache, bad temper, you'll eat and drink all the wrong things, comfort food and so on. A very important thing is that if you do have any physical symptoms, you should seek medical help because they are a danger signal. The other things help to expel the cortisol and they help to alleviate the stress. So talking, even if you just talk to your cat or your dog, speaking the issues outside helps. And journaling, which is a modern word for writing things down, is also, if you don't want to talk about it, you can't talk about it, then writing it down apparently really, really helps. Practices such as yoga and meditation, and then supplements that you can take to help as well, to help reduce your stress levels. So magnesium is good, so back to those leafy greens. Again, something new for me was if you get a twitchy eyelid, which I do sometimes, that's a sign of magnesium deficiency. And the final bit on helping with your stress, before we move on to gut, this is connected, taking probiotics. Again, probiotics help reduce the stress levels. Probiotics include things like kimchi, sauerkraut, fermented food, and you can also get different types of probiotics. And probiotics help to replace the good bacteria. And at the end, I've put names of a couple of probiotics, but two important things if you want to take probiotics, and good if you're traveling. I always take travel probiotics, which helps stave off new bugs that you might come across. Apparently either the water-based or the capsules are the best. The ones that are in yogurt or similar type drinks are not so good because they're not broken down by the stomach acid. So a little bit on probiotics. So stress has a very negative a negative drain on the gut, and the gut is very important. And your gut does actually talk to you. So we talk about trusting your gut, and I just thought that was just some kind of old wives' tale or similar. But I've been in situations where I have gone against my gut and my gut has been right. So for example, years ago, I was interviewing, and two of us were interviewing somebody to be our accommodation manager. Not anybody that you would know. But this person came in and my gut was screaming out, no, absolutely no way, no. But they interviewed really well. So my logical side took over and said, but hey, they seem absolutely perfect. They've answered all the questions. And we took them on and they were a disaster. And my gut was right. So I was fascinated to find there is a scientific connection. Your gut communicates with your brain. So keeping your gut healthy is very, very important. The downside is that alcohol is not good for your gut. So positive side is the probiotics, but avoid too much alcohol and stress. So moving away to a slightly more esoteric level and looking at mindfulness. And mindfulness is a term that can have varying effects on people. I'm slightly allergic to it actually, so I try to think of it as well-being. I mean, I like what it is, but I don't like the word. But basically, it's being in the here and now, rather than looking backwards or looking forwards. So many of us have what's called a monkey brain. I've got a real monkey brain, where your brain's just jotting around with things all the time, new thoughts, ideas coming in, or worrying about something, or worrying about things that cannot change. And mindfulness, all the mindfulness activities are designed to bring you back to the moment, to bring you back to the here and now. And scans of people who use mindfulness show significant neuroplastic changes in their brains. And there was an experiment done with UK Marines deployed in Afghanistan, where half had training and practice in mindfulness techniques and half didn't. And the mindfulness group were much calmer under stress and also reacted more quickly, in a good way, to threat. So that's quite interesting, all the Marines doing all their meditation. So meditation can worry people. They can panic and think, oh, I can't meditate, it's too difficult. But it doesn't mean sitting cross-legged for an hour with your eyes shut and then sort of floating around the room. You probably need some form of sort of drug to help you with that anyway. So it's not difficult. It just means focusing on the present moment and noticing what you're thinking. So some of the things you can do to help with that. Again, there's links and you can look these things up, just Google them. But there's something called a body scan. There's different ways of doing the body scan, but basically it is just sitting or standing or lying and observing your body from the top of your head down to your toes, bit by bit by bit. So move your mind around your body and just notice how your body's feeling, and then move on to the next bit. And some people do this every day and make notes and compare. You can just do it occasionally, but it really does help focus. Then there's something called walking meditation or mindful walks, which actually I call going for a walk. In my generation, we call this going for a walk, but that is walking without looking at your device. So, we're all walking around like this all the time. Really bad for us, cutting us off, cutting our senses off from what's around us. So just put the device away, look up at the sky, if you're not worried about dogs, look up at the sky and just enjoy, listen to the birds, etc. It's fun, and as I said, it's called going for a walk. And then back to one of my favorite topics, food and drink. If you're eating or drinking, just really savor it. So you've got a cup of tea, smell it, think about the heat, feel the sensations that goes down your throat, the taste, etc. Favorite childhood scent, thinking about that baking again. You know, for me, it's baking or plasticine or things like that. It just takes you back to a happy time. Looking at new textures, new patterns, listening to music. Another one of my favorites is yoga nidra, which is a form of relaxation. I really like this one because it means lying down on your back with your eyes shut for quite a long time. So anything that involves lying down, I'm quite keen on in the yoga front. It's super relaxing. You can access all sorts of yoga nidras online. Basically, you're lying down in the relaxation pose and someone else, normally with a lovely soothing voice, is taking you on a guided visualization, a guided meditation. And it's very effective, and it improves the functioning of your nervous system and your endocrine system, which affects your hormones, and it also helps with insomnia, so I really recommend that. Little things we can do: simplify your life, try and reduce your choices. So back in the world of work, when we go out to work and we put on normal clothes, I'm wearing a normal shirt today, hope you appreciate that. For example, the night before, put your clothes out so you don't have to make a choice in the morning, so your brain isn't worried with that. Just reduce your choices as much as you can. And finally, breathing exercises. There are many different ones. We're going to try one possibly in a minute when we look at sleep. Practice calming yourself. So if you practice lowering your heart rate and calming down, then when you are in a stress situation, you can apply the practice and then you will react more calmly. All sounds so easy, doesn't it? And then on to sleep, and there we are, there's my two cats. These are my companions. These are what are keeping me sane. It's Ziggy and Suki, and they don't have sleep problems. They seem fine, as far as I can tell. So we all know sleep's good, no sleep's bad. Sleep loss leads to a drop in IQ. the worst thing when you can't sleep is you panic because you can't sleep, and therefore you can't sleep, and it's this horrible catch-22 situation. And there's been a lot recently about how many hours you should or you shouldn't sleep, and no one seems to agree. So some say 4 hours is okay, some say it isn't, it needs to be 8, some say that's too much. But one measure is that if you wake up naturally at weekends at the same time as during the week, then you are actually getting enough sleep. Whereas if you sleep in, then you're not getting enough sleep in the week. And things to help your sleep are basically to create a soothing pre-sleep routine, which involves avoiding screens before you go to bed, making sure your screens are not shining a light out in the room. You can put them on the sunset setting, and then try yoga nidra or some other meditation exercise. There are the breathing exercises, the easy one for both pre-sleep and the calming yourself down is the count of 4. We can all just try it now. I can't see you, but you breathe in to a count of 4, you hold for a count of 4, you breathe out for a count of 4. So if you breathe in now, count of 4. So breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then out, 1, 2, 3, 4, pause and start again. And even better is breathing out to 8. So in 4, hold 4, out 8. And just a few of those, and you'll feel, I did this just before this seminar because I get myself so wound up with these things, and the fact it was not seeing you makes it worse because I wasn't going to get your positive oxytocin hormones. And it really does help. The breathing to the count of 4 just relaxes you. So just to finish off now, just coming to the end, there are many other things you can do, and there's been a lot written on this, and there's a lovely infographic by a guy called Ty, can't pronounce his name, Nguyen, who I think is based in Australia, Anna. I think he's an Australian academic, and he's just listed them here, the ways to grow your brain, the neuroplastic ways, and we've looked at some of these today. Traveling, I will be doing again. Mnemonic devices, ways of remembering things. Non-dominant hand exercises, I think, is a fun one to try. So cleaning your teeth with the wrong hand, or brushing your hair, shaving, that could be quite tricky with the wrong hand. I think that's just quite a fun one. You can get your kids trying that as well. Reading fiction, again, another favourite of mine, so I've popped up there on the screen a book I really recommend. I think it's a fabulous book. Something else good for us, what we do, our profession, expanding the vocabulary, dancing, and sleeping if you're lucky enough to sleep. And then, however, when all else fails, I personally think the idea of wine yoga is quite exciting, and I don't know if this will play, but I hope it will play for you. Let's just see. Sorry, I've got to try and, I'm not sure I can share this screen. Hold on a second. Bring my share window to the front. New share. Right. Bear with me a second. Okay, we'll go back to the beginning. Right, okay, wine yoga, here we go. Okay, and there we are.
So thank you so much, Jane. That was wonderful. Particularly that video at the end. I'm going to send that to my mum. My mum will love that.
There is a final slide with all the references, which I have to go back into screen sharing. I'll just see if I can pop that up for everybody. Just got to find the right one. Yeah, okay. So just show that. But I will be sharing this with all of you. So this has got further reading and links to yoga teachers and mindfulness apps and all the rest of it. So that's just for anybody that wants a quick look now. Yeah, okay, that's it, everybody. Hope you might have found one or two new things to take away, even if it's just one thing, like eating dark chocolate or lying down, you know, and doing yoga nidra. They're all good things. They're all good things. I'm going to stop the sharing now, so I can see you.
So I think we do have 5 minutes or so to invite questions now at this stage, or maybe just a discussion, really, as a group.
Yeah,
so
I think discussion more than questions, William. As I said, I'm not a neuroscientist. This was just something that I came across that I thought was interesting, and there's so much more out there. So those of you that have scientific backgrounds, you know, do have a look. And this is the book, and it's really practical. It's great, and the link is at the back. So Dr. Tara Swart, you can give that to your mum, William.
I will. I think one question or one thought I've had is do you think that flexible hours could be damaging for our well-being at the moment? I know that's something that we're all doing a lot, but do you think that not having a routine could lead to kind of a damaging sense of well-being?
Well, they say that routine is good for your well-being, and one of the things we've all been advised to do in lockdown is to still have that routine. But the reality, and I'm sure it's the same for you, is it's really difficult. So I often find I'm working late into the evening just because I get involved in something and I, you know, super glued to my chair again, and I don't notice time passing, and suddenly it's 10 o'clock. So once again, I'm not doing anything I'm advocating. So it's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone have any other feedback they want to just discuss as a group at this stage?
See, I'm having a look to see who you are now. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. I didn't know who was there.
Can you share the slides, Jane?
Well, one of the things I did, June, was that I actually illegally downloaded a large number of pictures I shouldn't have put on the slides. The photos are all my own. They're my family, as you've seen, my family. But the actual other ones I shouldn't. But I am going to share the last slide, which is all the links.
Okay, thank you.
And, you know, if you need any other bits and pieces, June, you're working with me. We'll be in the same building again soon. So that'll be easy.
Okay, then we'll draw it to a close this afternoon. Jane, thank you once again so much for your time. We really, really appreciate it. And for you guys for joining us this afternoon. And we'll bring you more webinars next week.
That's great. My pleasure. And happy Friday, everybody. I still find Fridays really exciting. Even in lockdown, I'm excited and looking forward to having that very bad for me alcoholic drink with our staff this evening. So see you all soon, I hope. Missing you all a lot. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.